B section and C section. Okay. So in A section, there are around 10 questions. You have to write only 5 questions. As usual, last time I had exam pattern undo. First section as usual, this is also. So in that 10 questions, you have to attempt only 5 questions. And each question carries 4 marks. 5 into 4, 20 marks there. Second section, 11 to 15. So there are 5 questions. Each question is having choice A or B. For example, 11th question, A question will be there and B. You have to write any one question. Likewise, 11 to 15, 5 questions and option will be there. 5 into 12, 60 marks. Section C, earlier it was bit paper, right? Yes or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this time no bit paper, no multiple choice, no fill in the blanks. Only one essay question, that is 20 marks question.
Wow.
Okay, so this is the pattern for the exam. So offline, around 6 modules or 6 units completed so far. Now, today we discuss about the India's agriculture structure and land reforms during revolution. Okay. So when we observe agriculture sector, it is predominantly importance, particularly for the development of the agriculture or any development economy. Particularly, India is a developing country. Most of the people are engaged in agriculture sector compared to service and industrial sector. So here, when we when we observe the modern agricultural technology, particularly divided into 4 parts. First one is hydrological technology and mechanical technology, biochemical and managerial technology. Later on, these 4 categorized into 2. One is, we can say that modern technology, and another one is biochemical technology. Okay, mechanical technology also we can say that, and biochemical technology. So when we look at the chemical, particularly the mechanical technology, which gives chemical fertilizer to the agriculture sector and pesticides, which helps the agriculture sector. When it comes to the biological technology, okay, particularly the biochemical technology, labor absorption and land saving, land scales, this is related to the biological technology. As we know that India agriculture sector playing very important role for particularly development of the economy. Because when we observe, there are 2 factors are influencing. One is demand side factors and another one is supply side factors. When we observe the supply side factors, this agriculture sector, particularly food grains, are supplying, okay, food grains to the workers. These workers are non-agriculture sector. Okay, agriculture sector, food grains to the workers. These workers related to the non-agriculture sector. That means agriculture is playing important role to supply food grains. That is one side. And also agricultural raw materials, particularly agro-based industries, which industries are depending on agriculture sector. Okay, that sectors depending on agriculture sector. For example, cotton industry and sugarcane industry. Okay, this agriculture again supplying the raw materials to the agro-based industries. That is supply side. Okay, and also laborers, particularly the surplus labor from the agriculture sector. These surplus agriculture laborers are moving towards the non-agricultural sector. Agriculture sector నుంచి surplus గా ఉన్నటువంటి laborers they are moving to the non-agriculture sectors. That is also supply side. And also another important capital to the non-agriculture sector, particularly surplus one. Okay, so this is related to the supply side of the agriculture and demand side. When we look at to the demand side, non-agricultural goods, particularly durable and non-durable goods. Durable goods which can be used over a period of time, long time period of time, that durable goods we can use. For example, fridge, refrigerators. Okay, this comes under the durable goods. And the non-durable goods, okay, non-durable goods, very short period of time they can use, or sometimes we can use only one time. Okay, so these are the non-durable goods. And also agricultural inputs. This we are talking about the demand side. Agricultural inputs such as high yield varieties of seeds they are providing, and also pesticides, fertilizers. Okay, and also agricultural implements and machinery. These are the demand side of the agriculture. When we look at to the agriculture sector, particularly pre-independence period of time. Okay, so as we know that earlier British, we are under the British rule. Okay, there are these English or Britishers after they came into the as a East India Company. Okay, they have identified agriculture is a major revenue source for the East India Company. So they focused on the agriculture, okay, to loot the agriculture sector particularly. So they have implemented the system which we call it as Jamindari system. Okay, so in this Jamindari system, they want to they are giving importance to the agriculture sector, particularly to generate the revenue for the East India Company. This revenue which is generating from the agriculture sector, okay, that revenue they are using for their military and civil administrative expenditure purpose. This is one of the drawbacks. Okay, so here when we talk about the Jamindari system, Jamindars with they're having some permanent rights, particularly on land. Okay, these Jamindars they collect revenue from the tenants, or we can say that from the farmers. Okay, so they are collecting revenue, and that revenue is payback to the East India Company, right? So this is one of the important drawback of this Jamindari system, because they are looting the entire agriculture economy, particularly this East India Company. So they started land reforms. After the independence, India started land reforms. This because most of the people, they are belonging to rural areas. Their main occupation is agriculture sector. To get or to promote the social justice or to reduce the income inequalities in the land ownership, they have started the land reforms. The government, okay, has taken initiative to make land reforms. Okay, so here there are some objectives are there. These objectives are related to the land reforms. Okay, so rational use of scarce land by changing the conditions of land holding and imposing ceiling. What does it mean? They are protecting the land, particularly those who are having more land. Okay, so they have to utilize a proper manner. Okay, so that is one objective of the land reforms, and also rising the standard of living of the rural poor through the redistribution of land. As we know that in the Jamindari system, most of the lands are having only few people that comes under Jamindars. Okay, after the reforms, these land reforms, they are abolishing, or we can say that redistributing these lands to the poor people through the land reforms. That is another objective. And also protection of the tenants from the exploitation, దోపిడీ, మధ్యవర్తుల నుండి ప్రొటెక్ట్ చేయడం కోసం కూడా ల్యాండ్ రిఫార్మ్స్ తీసుకురావడం జరిగింది. దే ఆర్ ప్రొటెక్టింగ్ for the tenants, particularly from the exploitation. That is also one of the objective. And also provision of security of tenure, particularly tiller of the soil. This is also one of the objective. And when we talk about the objectives, improvement in the agricultural production through the land reclamation. This is also one of the important objective of the land reform. So when we look at to the land reforms in India after independence, okay, so when we observe this, as we know that National Commission of Agriculture, okay, that noted the importance of the land reforms, particularly in Indian case. Okay, so these reforms has to take some initiatives because there are jamindaris are there. They are looting again the economy, particularly the rural side. Okay, so here they have taken some initiatives, particularly after the independence. As we know that almost all part of the India, there was a struggle, particularly to abolish the intermediaries in the agriculture sector. So they have taken some initiatives. One of the initiative was abolition of intermediaries. Removal of intermediaries between the peasants, between the farmers. Okay, so the government after the independence, as we know that Congress came into the powers. Before that, before the elections, they have clearly mentioned in their manifesto this one, which the abolition of the intermediaries there in their manifesto. So immediately after came into the powers, they recognized that it is we should concentrate on the land reforms, particularly because we need to abolish the intermediaries. Okay, so this Congress party, after the independence, after the power into the existence, okay, they have appointed one committee that we call it as Agrarian Reforms Committee. Okay, this Agrarian Reforms Committee chairman was Kumarappa. Okay, so this Kumarappa's committee, Agrarian Reforms Committee, has taken some initiatives and they have pointed out some issues. Okay, that issues are particularly 57% of the land are under the private ownership. That means they are belonging to under the jamindari. So these jamindaris are having around 57% of the land. Later, as we know that Raitwari system was there, this Raitwari system around 38% they are occupied the land. Okay, so they want to remove this, and also Mahalwari system was there. That Mahalwari system around only 5%. Okay, so they Mahalwari system they are only having 5%. In the Raitwari they are having 38% of land holding, and this Jamindari they are having 57% of the land. This 57% of the land, only few members are there. So they have identified the some issues. So they need to abolish these intermediaries. We can say that these jamindaris are intermediaries between the British and farmers. So they are looting the agriculture productivity from this from the farmers and paying to the East India Company. So they have identified some issues. So they want to abolish this. So that is why abolition of all the forms of feudal exploitation of the tenancy to moderate compensation. So they have to remove the this abolition of intermediaries. Along with that, tenancy reforms also they have implemented, and also ceiling on land holdings. These are the major initiatives, or we can say that land reforms after the independence. There are three reforms are there: abolition of intermediaries and tenancy reforms, ceiling on the land holdings. Okay, so as we know that these jamindars are allowed to keep the land for self-cultivation. After the independence, they are holding 57% of the land. Okay, so we need to redistribute that particular 57% of the land. Okay, so that is the abolition of intermediaries. So next one is tenancy reforms. As I said, tenancy reforms. These tenancy reforms of land, particularly when we observe, we are having a long history since 1885, because this was under the Bengal, under the British rule. So again, we have observed certain, problems, particularly permanent settlement. Okay, so we need to again have to take initiatives, particularly the reforms. So they have identified and abolished also. Okay, abolished these intermediaries after the 1950s. Okay, we are talking about the after the independence, right? So in 2006, around 12.56 million tenants were conferred, and also around 6.7 millions of hectares were under the tenants reforms. Okay, so when we look at this ceiling glass of the after the first round of the 1960s. Okay, so when we observe this, particularly the imposing of ceiling and the size of land holding after the first 5-year plan, 1951 to 56. Okay, so when we observe the farm management, okay, which were particularly conducted even 7 to 8 districts, okay, for this first round of the sealing of land. Okay, and second 5-year plan also they suggested reasonable ceiling that should be fixed for the uh, size of the holding, particularly for family holding. Okay, so there are no family holding was particularly under the Act of 1976. Okay, so they have certain objectives. Okay, so particularly this Sealing Act, they are having certain objectives. So the unit of particularly the application, which was instead of individuals, they have shifted to the family. Okay, particularly this is in Indian Andhra Pradesh and Assam side, and also Bihar, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh. These are the units have considered. Around 42 categories of land they have exempted from this ceiling. So particularly that certain areas are there, particularly religious institutions. It may be fisheries areas, efficiency of managed farm. Okay, so there are many exemptions are there. Around 42 categories are there. These categories are exempted from the ceiling, and also legislative measures they have uh, taken because there are loopholes are there. So they have taken the advantages of their big land owners. That is one of the drawback. Okay, so they have taken initiatives. So another one also second round sealing of the uh, redistribution of the land, particularly 1970s. Okay, again this second round sealing of land has undertaken after the agrarian unrest of 1960s. Okay, so they have given certain no, rules and regulations particularly. So they again the limit of ceiling should be between 10 to 18 acres. Okay, they are dividing the holding of land. It should be 10 to 18 acres, the best category of land. Okay, and with assured that the capable of yielding of at least 2 crops in a year. They are divided 10 to 18 acres of ceiling of land. That land is particularly in a year that yielding is 2 crop must be there. So if there is a no irrigation facilities, if there is no irrigation land holding, that is allowed 54 acres. If there is a irrigation, then we say that 10 to 18 acres of land holding, particularly that land is 2 times their cropping. Okay, 2 times, particularly in a year. If there is no irrigation facilities, the maximum holding of land is around 54% or 54 acres. Okay, they can hold the land according to the second round of the ceiling. And also, it should be the family within the 5 members of the family. Okay, they can provide allowance for the more members. Maximum is 2 ceilings. And also, the exemption should be allowed only few categories. Again, the second round also they have exempted, particularly the land such as plantations and agricultural institutions. Those who are having the agricultural institutions and plantations, they are exempted from the holding of the land. And also, when we observe the reproductive of this effect, particularly came into existence after the 1971, that you have to remember. So overall, there are defects are there. These land reforms failures are there. There are various issues are there when we observe loopholes in the Land Reforms Act. This act particularly unsatisfactory by the personnel, those who are cultivating, particularly tenant or farmers. Farmers are unsatisfactory with this land holding act or reforms. Okay, so this is the one of the drawback. And another one is lack of political will. Lack of political will. When there is a strong political wills, that determination will that varies, and it gives more importance to the agriculture sector, as well as more protect to the agriculture land holding. So there is a lack of political will we can observe in the land reforms that leads to create the problems among the farmers, we can say that. And also a passive nature of benefits or beneficiaries. Marginal and small farmers or landless laborers are having no union in the particularly rural areas. So because most of the rural areas people are illiterates and innocent. So they have ignored the importance of the laborers. Their failure to the demand, due to this act, the reforms are inactive or ineffective, we can say that. Okay. And also, no availability of records. This is a very important point, because they have taken initiatives, land reforms they implemented, but there is no proper availability of records. It may be, over a decades period, land records have not been maintained properly. There are issues are there. Okay, so that is why this is one of the drawback of the land reforms, as we can say that. Okay, and also disparities in the act. Disparities. So agriculture is a state subject. When we look into the different states, okay, there are National Council for Rural Reforms, Land Reforms was established in 2008 to resolve the disparities among the farmers or agriculturals. Okay, so to reduce the disparities among the farmers or agriculture, okay, National Council for Land Reforms, which was established in 2008. And also, delay in the follow-up of actions. Delay in the follow-up of the actions. There are, numerous issues are there. They have delayed, taken up of following these actions, and due to this, there is a huge defects. We can say that these are the overall defects of the land holdings, we can say that. When we are talking about the pre-Green Revolution period, particularly agricultural development, when we look at to the agriculture sector, as we know that 1946 and 47, India almost they imported 2.58 million tons of the food grains we imported. Okay, this is the we can say that this situation worsened in the India because around 18% of the peasant population was transformed into India to Pakistan. Most of the farmers are shifted from the India to Pakistan. So this is also one of the uh, reason for the shortage of the or importing of the food grains around 2.58 million tons. Okay, so the another necessary or reason for introducing of this green revolution, we are talking about the before the green revolution. As we know that uh, integrated agricultural development program was introduced in 1960, particularly uh, for financial assistance is given to the farmers, and it was implemented the first 7 districts, okay, and later on implemented all over the India. In 1965 October, the new policy was introduced. There are around 114 districts out of 325. They implemented around 114. And also this program, particularly intensive agricultural area program, was introduced. Why it is necessary to adopt the green revolution? Why we want to introduce this green revolution? When we observe, particularly 1960s and 1962 and 65, there was a war between Pakistan and China, as we know that, right? So China, 1962, there was a war, and with Pakistan, 1965, right? And also there are 2 prime ministers who were uh, consecutively failure, particularly due to this 1962 and 65 war. There is a failure in the crop due to the drought, right? So this is the main reason 62 and 65 we focused on the war and neglected this agriculture sector. So that is why we almost 10.38 million tons of grain we imported from the United States. We have imported in 1966. Why we imported? There is a shortage of food grains. Around 10.34 million tons we imported from the United States because there is a failure in the crop because of Pakistan, because of China war, right? So this is the drawback. So we have implemented the various programs to generate or to implement to, or we can say that to grow cropping, right? So they have expansion of green revolution technology they have adopted. Okay, so when we observe green revolution, that period 1950-51 to 65-66, after that post green revolution was there, we can say that 1966 period to 89 and 90, they have taken initiatives, particularly in irrigation. Most of the wherever they required, they have taken initiatives. They have adapted the new technology and also the investment, particularly an expansion of irrigation. Okay, in various part of the India, they have taken initiatives, and also that NIA, net irrigated area, they have expanded from 20 million hectares to, particularly this was in 1950, 20 to 26 million hectares, 1950 to 65 in between. So later on, this growth was increased around 1.55 million per hectare per annum. This was increased. We can say that due to the expansion, or we can say that implementation of green revolution. Okay, so when we observe the cropping pattern, particularly the productivity important of the crops. Cropping pattern, when we observe, it implies the portion of area under the different crops over a period of time. Okay, and with different cropping pattern, different crops. This cropping pattern may be determined by various factors, particularly natural factors. We can say that it may be influence rainfall, it may be climate changes may affect, and soil conditions. These are the factors, we can say that natural factors which are determined by the cropping pattern, as we know that. In addition to that, that means along with this rainfall, climate changes, soil condition, okay, there are other factors also influencing the different crops. That may be technological factors. Okay, these technological factors are playing very important role to influence the proportion of the cropping pattern. Okay, or area of the cropping pattern to increase the crops in the country. This is one of the important pattern. So what are the cropping patterns are determining? What are the factors determining the cropping pattern? Which factors are influencing the cropping pattern? So as I said, one is natural factors, rainfall, climate, soil conditions is the one side. So these factors, these natural factors, as I said, soil, climate changes, and rainfall. These factors which influence the cropping pattern of any region over the period of time or in the country. For example, if there is rainfall, then we can observe the appropriate cropping pattern in the country, right? Similarly, if there is a uh, shortage of rainfall, okay, shortage of rainfall, then we can observe the crops like jawar, maize, bajra, because for this no need water facilities much, right? So due to insufficient water, that cropping pattern is different. Due to sufficient water, cropping pattern is different. So wheat, we can say that appropriate crop, and we can say that for rice, water is required. So there is a natural factors also influencing the cropping pattern in India's case. Another factors also influence the cropping, that we call it as economic factors. First factor is natural factor, and the second factor is economic factor. Okay, so these factors consisting of the price of agricultural product. We are talking about economic factors. This agricultural products, along with these products, income of the farmers and the profits of the profitability of the crops. Okay, this involve in the specific crop cultivation and the size of the land holding. Whether these are the economic factors that are influencing the cropping pattern. Income of the farmers. If they are getting more income when they are cultivating, when the crops from the crops, they are going to be interest more and they can cultivate more and they can give. So income of the farmers, agricultural products, what are the products they are, and profitability of the crops. Which crops are giving more profit, they are trying to cultivate that crops only. That is also influencing. So along with these natural factors, economic factors, social factors also influence the cropping of the pattern. So social factors, social environment, we can say that customs and traditions, which are comes under the social factors. All the factors influence cropping pattern in some extent. These social factors are influencing the cropping pattern because these factors may influence the farmers to cultivate traditional crops using the traditional methods, that various seeds and methods. Still, they are using with plow and with bullock, right? Still, they are using some areas, and modern they are using technology, tractors, machines they are using. So social factors which we are talking about, the customs, traditional methods, these methods also influence the cropping pattern because farmers are ready to use only the traditional methods. That is why they are using traditional crops. That is also one of the important factor to determine the cropping pattern of the country. And the another one is government policy. Okay, these policies particularly related to the different crops. It may be exports, it may be taxes, subsidies, and inputs and credit availability to the farmers. These policies are how to, or we can say that the government has to take some initiatives. These initiatives, it may be they are giving encouragement to export their productivity and reducing the taxes on the agricultural products and giving subsidies or inputs to the agricultural laborers, okay, and giving credit facilities to the farmers. This will affect the cropping pattern in a significant way. If the government is providing this, it may be subsidies and supplying inputs to the farmers. Okay, this will significantly positive impact on the cropping pattern. This leads to increase the cropping pattern in the country, as we know that. So expansion of irrigation, government has to take some initiatives, particularly for irrigation, expansion of irrigation facilities. This and also minimum support prices for agricultural products. Government have to give at least minimum support prices so that they can gain more, they can interest, right? So government policies also one of the factor to decide the cropping pattern of the country. So as we know that the cropping pattern in India, particularly 1950s to 1990s, there are various crops are there. It may be rice, wheat, jawar, bajra, maize, and sunflower, sugarcane, cotton, all the products, all the items, or all the crops, we can say that. Okay. So food grains also there, pulses, cereals, oil seeds. This observed from 1950s to 1990, there is a huge differentiation is there. That means the productivity, the cropping pattern has increased over a period of time. We can say that. So the green revolution, the cost of green revolution, when we look at this, okay, the green revolution, the technology, there are introduced various places, okay, around for first 5 year plan, around 21,505 crores, or we can say that in the sixth plan, the irrigation cost that was increased around 509 to 4,745 crores. They have spending more money on green revolution. Okay, so still we need to reduce the regional imbalances and coverage. That is more important because there is a imbalance between the region to region that we have to overcome with the help of the government, right? That is also one of the uh, initiative of the green revolution. And also when we observe uh, the achievements of green revolution, okay, the major hallmark, we can say that the new agricultural technology was introduced in India that leads to give a boosting to the farmers. We can say that self-reliance, particularly for food grains, food production. We have overcome the shortage of the food grains. Particularly this food grains was risen 50 million tons from 1950-51 to 74 million tons in 1960 to 67. It was increased a large quantity, we can say that. So when we observe the yield level, particularly the cropping, it may be rice, it may be wheat, or food grains, cereals, okay, oil seeds. There is a, we can say that there is a tremendous increment in the food grains because of implementation of this green revolution. Okay, this is all about the agriculture green revolution. So next we can agrarian crisis and food security in India. We can discuss how the government have taken initiatives, expansion of irrigation, and also high yield varieties of seeds and chemical fertilizers after the post globalization period. Okay, and also we can discuss the impact of globalization on Indian economy, particularly in agriculture sector. This is very important question for your examination point of view also. And food security, food policy, how the after the independence, and how the agrarian crisis solved. We can discuss the next class. Is it clear so far?
Clear, sir.
Yeah, fine. Meanwhile, after the uh, end of the session, that means last class, I'll give you the important questions. You focus on that important questions. It will help you. I'll tell you that important questions in the last day.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Right. I'm going to close.